Welcome to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz, your connection to insights from some of the top direct response marketing minds on the planet.
Hey, it's Brian Kurtz here, host of the Timeless Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a clip from one of the 2-hour calls inside Titan's Accelerator, my private mentorship program for direct response marketers. Before we get to that, I have one question for you. Do you have a marketing insurance policy? If you don't, you need one. And that's why I created Titan's Accelerator, which is one of the most giving communities and serves as the de facto board of advisors and marketing insurance policy for over 250 of the best and brightest direct response marketers, copywriters, media buyers, marketing agencies, senior executives, anyone in direct response marketing who is committed to growing and scaling their business. The bottom line, you don't have to grow your business alone, and you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars either. Titan's Accelerator is 1/10 of the price of most groups of its kind. I know because I hosted a group that was over $20,000 a year. If you want to see how Titan's Accelerator can help you grow and scale your specific business, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BrianKurtz.net/help. And with a private membership, you'll receive access to the full presentation from today's episode, along with the Q&A and discussion that followed. As an added bonus, you'll receive access to a vault filled with many more private calls just like this one. Again, if you want to see if Titan's Accelerator is a fit for you with no obligation, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BrianKurtz.net/help. And feel free to email me directly. I respond to every email with questions about this episode or just to say hi at briankurtz.net. Now on to today's episode.
Everybody's got something to offer. And Dan, when I went, before he sold his stuff to ClickFunnels, I remember going on his old site and I was amazed at the volume of material that he's accumulated over his career. And it's astounding. Now, a lot of it you could say is repetitive. A lot of it is overlap. It's a lot of it, but it's still original content. And original content is in the eyes of the beholder. It's like, what's original when, we're talking about, someone who has been putting out valuable marketing information for as long as he has. So it's and so this book that we're gonna talk about today is I'll repeat this when he comes on, but those of you who are here early, you'll get the preview of the preview. But it's his Best of No B.S., which are his 12 different No B.S. books, and they're all together in this one book, 575 pages. We've got about over 100 people on the call. This is my Titans Mastermind, my Titans Accelerator Mastermind group. We've been on the phone for a half hour, people telling stories about you, insulting you like crazy, which has been wonderful. But there's been some really warm stories, and we've decided that you really are a teddy bear. I'm really happy that you're here, that you're doing well, and that you've got a book to talk about.
Well, good. Thank you. And thank you for everybody with the warm stories and the hell with everybody with the insults.
I knew you would say that. So we're going to talk about your new book today, which is The Best of No B.S., the ultimate no holds barred anthology. It's excerpted from 12 different No B.S. books. It's spanning work from 2004 to the present. It is, you are a man of action. You say it's a book to use, not just to read. And you specifically wrote down in the cheat sheet you gave me that there are 17 checklists in the book. So I want to ask you right up front, and then we'll get into the weeds a little bit in some of the sections of the book. But I want just start off with something that is a big takeaway. What is the single most powerful checklist in the book, and why? And you don't have to say everything that's on the checklist, but what do you think the top checklist in the book is?
Well, that's a situational answer.
Okay.
The old ancient saying, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that when the person is ready, the right checklist arrives. Because 10 different people could go through this book, look at each of them, read the detail around them, and each person would find a different one most relevant to where they are and what they are dealing with at the moment. So there is a time management checklist, for example. There are a couple of very specific marketing-related checklists. There's a trust and influence checklist. So they are, to use a currently popular word, they are diverse. There's one in just about, I think, every major section of the book. And
well, let's dive into the book then.
Okay.
It's 575 pages, and it's all actionable. I want to start from section 1, which is I read Ken McCarthy's foreword, which I think is interesting because he made a comment in there that Dan is underappreciated in the world of online marketing. Now, I'll say not by this group. I can say that for a fact, because everybody here does online marketing, yet everybody here is a Dan Kennedy follower in the best way. You have a lot of fans on this call right now, and not just fans, people who have followed your advice and changed their businesses and their lives. So, so basically that it's all direct marketing, whether it's online or offline. When you spoke in Cleveland for my mastermind, you said that I think the title was, offline marketing in an online world and multi-channel marketing. So in part 1, you talk about direct marketing and No B.S. direct marketing, but also No B.S. Guide to Direct Response Social Media, which is one of the B.S. books that you did with Kim Walsh-Phillips. So I guess the question, it's a softball question, I know, but it's one that I'm going to insult you with. What the hell do you know about social media?
So the most important thing I know is that it is just media, nothing more and nothing less, and for the most part, nothing different from any other media in the way that you would use it to obtain money. Every time there is a new media or a new collection of media, there is a lot of noise about it now antiquating, quote, quote, old rules and methods. And that is always wrong. And some new media, like social media and subsets within it, try to argue that they have a unique culture and that the culture essentially precludes you doing results required marketing, which is my alternative name for honest direct marketing. It's results required marketing. But this is much like arguing geoculture, that you can't go over to England or Japan and advertise and market like you do here. or vice versa. And I've consistently proven that to be entirely wrong. Social media also brings with it an argument about new metrics, which is really just synonym for new BS. Because when Ogilvy said only the mail order people actually know what they are doing.
Yes.
Well, he's still right.
He is.
After all these years, because see, the only metrics that matter, right, are measurable metrics tied to desired results, like cost per lead, cost per sale, return on dollars invested. I recall when Mickey, and now I'm going to forget his last name, was CEO of one of the big apparel companies. We saw a little clip of staff meeting where his marketing people were besieging him about new metrics. That essentially he was an old timer and trying to hold this new media accountable by old metrics. And his answer was, that argument is perfectly acceptable to me as long as me writing out your paychecks in likes and viral forwards is acceptable instead of writing it out in dollars. So the most important thing I think to know about any media, all media, including whatever the newest perambulation of online or social media is at this moment, is if you can get 2 million people to watch you twerk on TikTok, God bless you. However, that doesn't matter unless you can prove that generates leads directly moved from there to your funnels and platforms that you convert into dollars. And
Amen.
I know that my marketing life divides almost evenly between pre-internet and post-internet. And nothing about what I do has actually changed in the post-internet world than in the pre-internet world, other than me having to have more arguments with more people about ROI. Now, you mentioned multi-channel. The approach I would prefer even to that is integration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I view all of this as having given us additional media to integrate.
Yeah. In my book, I did O to O to O, which is online, offline, online, toggling in both places, because it's what you say the most dangerous number in business is one medium is most dangerous, and just being an online or offline is dangerous. And I agree with you. I think that integration is much better. I'm going to stop using multi-channel. I'm going to move to integration. Integrated. That's good. If anybody has questions, they should raise their hands, and we'll get to questions as we get closer to the end of the 45 minutes with Dan. I just want to cover a few more things in the book that he thought would be the most, not just the most interesting, but the ones that would probably resonate the most. And what he said to me, I know the section, it's section 5, which is about time management and ruthless management of people and profits. We talk about that in this group a lot, Dan, about not just gatekeeping your life, but protecting protecting yourself from everybody. And you know how terrible I am at that. You always accuse me of, letting people in too much and all of that. But then you say that's the way you want to live your life. That's fine. But the way you live your life has been so productive because of the way that you've talked about ruthless management and the idea of time management for entrepreneurs being kind of the secret weapon. So on page 418, you say, if you don't know what your time is worth, you can't expect the world to know either. So let's talk about successfully communicating your value to your customers, clients, and patients. I think this alone will be a useful lesson for anybody who's either heard you speak or read your writing or not. And I'd love for you to talk about that.
So you have to know first, and a lot of people don't know. So if you ask somebody what their income or wealth spin-off goals are for the year, many people will have a number. Then ask them how much each hour of their time has to be worth for that to be achieved. Most of them will not have an answer. They won't actually have thought about it in those terms. So you have to know, and there's an exercise in that section of the book for getting to a number. Then you have to be able to communicate it effectively to those around you, which the principal means of communication of that is demonstration. So it's process. So if you are, for example, easily accessible, that's perceived as eagerly accessible, and it is devaluing and diminishing. And so a lot of people think that by being Johnny on the spot and always responsive in 2 seconds and being happy to receive, what I call brain fart texts and emails, 16 in the same day from the same person. Every time they have a brain fart, they send off a communication that you now have to respond to. If you let that happen to you, not only are you damaging your own productivity, you're ruining your positioning. You think that maybe is going to gain favor, and in the very short term, it may, but it is also eating away at perceived value of you and your time to your clientele and to your market. So by your process, you speak to others about the value of your time. I've had a very recent experience with a new client, but a long-time lifer. Been around for a long time, but only recently bought some time and services and become a client. And I've had to teach him to properly value time twice now. Not because he's a bad guy, not any of that, but some people are slower learners, than others. But because the framework's there, because the foundation is there, it's been easy each time. So I've been able to say, look, this is the second detailed, complex question you've sent me asking for an immediate response, but that's not our arrangement. we have booked and scheduled time, and we're engaging in mission creep. Having said that, I'm going to give you an answer, but this cannot become a habit. And I immediately got a thank you, an apology, I don't want to be the guy guilty of mission creep, and I won't let it happen again. Now, if you haven't laid the proper foundation for that, but then you try and rein this in without that foundation, you will understandably piss that client off. Okay? So you teach people, staff, vendors, clients, customers, patients, the world at large. You teach them how to interact with you. And if their interaction with you is not to your liking, if it's disruptive, if it's counterproductive, if at the end of a given day you like to run away to a desert island where there's no electronic reception, if you see, that's all on you. That's not on them. And so having rules of engagement within what I call a personal operating system is important for both reasons. Your own performance, your own peak performance, and the perceptions you convey to the people around you.
It creates your worth. And you know, as someone who's been guilty of not setting those parameters as much, I've done it more because of your instruction, Dan. You'll be happy to know. But I probably need to, like that guy you were coaching, I probably need the same coaching.
And so I had a call earlier today with Ben Glass. I think you know Ben.
Yeah, Ben's awesome.
And early on, 1995, I think, when he first started to pay attention to my stuff, he was like the only lawyer who imposed a no inbound calls taken, all calls pre-scheduled by appointment discipline in his practice. And his staff predicted Armageddon. And he even did it with judges. And he said, now, however many years later that is, I'm bad at math without a pen and paper, but it's become if not common, a often used approach. Doesn't shock people. It doesn't even shock judges. Because actually, it makes sense for both sides of the equation. The rules of engagement, just like any other contract or any other agreement, protect both parties against all sorts of misunderstandings and grievances and complaints and annoyances like phone tag and all of that. And you actually enhance their productivity as much as you do yours. Yeah. And in many cases, my own experience has been that by modeling this to others who at first don't like it, discover that there's benefit to them, and then they turn around and begin to use it.
Thanks for listening to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz. Visit briankurtz.net and click podcast at the top of the page for a full transcript and show notes. If you're interested in working with Brian personally inside of Titans Accelerator, go to briankurtz.net/help to see how Titans can help you grow and scale your business. That's BRIANKURTZ.net/help.